swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this cause shall be the truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Have a seat, please.
Sir, could you begin by stating your first and last name for the record?
First name is Michael, last is Nichols, Nicholls.
And Mr. Nichols, you're a law enforcement officer, correct?
Yes.
Who are you employed by?
The city of Farmington Hills.
Okay, and what is your current assignment, sir?
I work in the police department as a patrol officer.
Okay, and were you working in that capacity during the early morning hours of Sunday, August 9th of 2015?
Yes.
And were you on duty after midnight going up towards 1 o'clock a.m. and beyond that on August 9th?
Yes.
What was your assignment that day?
I was assigned to road patrol.
Okay, and were you in a police uniform?
Yes.
And was that a fully marked standard Farmington Hills police uniform?
Yes.
And when you were assigned to road patrol, were you in a marked or unmarked vehicle?
It was a marked patrol car.
Okay, did that include stickers indicating Farmington Hills Police and things of that nature?
Yes.
Did it also include emergency exterior lights?
Yes.
Okay, so a standard law enforcement vehicle marked as such, correct?
Yes.
Were you working alone or were you working with a partner in your vehicle?
I was alone.
Were there other law enforcement officers on duty at that same shift for Farmington Hills at that time?
Yes.
Okay. At approximately 1:04 a.m., were you dispatched to 22600 Middle Belt in Farmington Hills?
Yes.
Okay, and is that a residential area?
Yes.
And have you been to that area previously in your lifetime?
Yes.
So did you know how to get there once you were dispatched to that location?
Yes.
And approximately how long did it take you to arrive at that area?
I would estimate 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay. And were other law enforcement officers also responding besides yourself, if you know?
Yes.
Which was the first patrol vehicle to arrive at 22600 Middle Belt in Farmington Hills?
I was the first to arrive.
Okay. And when you arrived, is this a trailer park?
Yes.
Okay. And did you go into the trailer park itself?
Yes.
And there are a number of streets in that trailer park, I imagine. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And were you able to find the area you were directed to fairly easily?
Yes.
And when you arrived there, was it approximately around 1:08 in the morning or somewhere near that time?
Yes.
Okay. And when you arrived there, did you see a group of individuals outside near where you were directed to go?
Yes.
Okay. And how many males were together at that time?
3.
And were they all white males?
Yes.
Okay. And the 3 males that were together, were they inside or outside of a trailer?
They were outside trailer D18.
Okay. And did it appear when you arrived that the 3 of them were getting along or not having any problems with each other?
Yes.
Okay. So you didn't see any dispute between those 3 when you arrived, correct?
Correct.
All right. And were they able to see your vehicle from where you ultimately stopped in your patrol vehicle?
Yes.
All right. And did you see, could you see the area clearly? Were your lights on? Was the area illuminated?
Yes, the area is illuminated by my headlights.
Okay. And did you see any injury to anyone of the 3 white males you're describing outside of the trailer at that time?
I did not.
All right. And do you see someone in court today that you now know as Dante Nederveld?
Yes.
Can you point to him and say where he is today?
He's sitting next to his attorney to your left.
May record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant?
Record shall so reflect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer, was the defendant one of the 3 individuals that was outside at this time, outside of the trailer?
No.
All right. Was the defendant anywhere in that immediate area when you first were coming in, when you stopped, and when you were making your observations?
I did not see the defendant as I arrived on scene.
Okay. Did you, in fact, park your vehicle?
Yes.
Where did you park your vehicle? Earlier in the surrounding area.
Yes.
After you park your vehicle initially, you don't see the defendant, do you?
No.
Okay. Did you, in fact, exit your vehicle at some time?
Yes.
All right. And when you exited your patrol vehicle, is your patrol vehicle parked in the street or somewhere else?
It was off to the side.
Okay, but was it physically in the street?
Yes.
Okay. And are the streets there fairly narrow?
Yes.
Okay. And so when you're outside, are you also standing in the street at this time?
Yes.
Okay. And did you come to meet a Mr. Wegson, the victim in this case?
Yes.
All right. And was he one of the three white males that was outside of the trailer talking when you pulled up?
Yes.
All right. And did those three males acknowledge you and see that you were the police?
Yes.
And did Mr. Wegson approach you at all?
Yes.
Was he being cooperative, Mr. Wegson?
Yes.
And were you... Which direction were you facing when Mr. Wegson was approaching you, officer?
I was facing his...
You when you were facing each other and he was coming to you?
Yes.
Could he speak at that time?
Yes.
And was he able to walk and do everything at that time?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any individual between you and Mr. Wegson that would have blocked your view of him as he's coming towards you to come talk to you?
No.
Okay. And he was coming to you voluntarily?
Yes.
All right. And as you're facing Mr. Wegson, approximately how many feet apart from him were you? Bless you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I would estimate 8 to 10 feet, approximately.
Okay. And there was nothing blocking your view of him at that time?
No.
You could see and hear clearly?
Yes.
All right. Tell the court, officer, what occurs as you're 8 to 10 feet away, face to face from Mr. Wegson, I guess closer than I am to you now, but as you and I are facing one another. You're both standing, correct?
Correct.
And you're both on the street, correct?
Yes.
And the street is made of, is it pavement or some other substance?
Blacktop.
Blacktop, okay. What occurs as you're 8 to 10 feet away facing Mr. Wegson and he's walking towards you?
Mr. Wegson begins to tell me that he said that guy, he was referencing the fact that he was driving recklessly through the complex.
Okay, he was complaining that someone else was driving recklessly through the complex?
Correct.
All right. And during that discussion, did anything happen before he was able to finish his report to you?
Yes.
What occurred, what's the next thing that you observed that interrupted Mr. Wegson's reporting this incident to you?
Mr. Nederveld walked out from behind my patrol car and came up behind me.
Okay, now when you say Mr. Nederveld, you're talking about the defendant here in court?
Yes.
And when you say he came up behind your patrol car, did he have to pass the length of your patrol car?
Yes.
Okay, so he came from behind where your patrol car was parked?
Correct.
And then also he came from behind where you were standing, correct?
Yes.
Did the defendant pass you as he came behind your patrol car and behind you?
He basically was standing next to me.
Okay, for a period... I'm sorry, so for a period of time the defendant was standing next to you?
Correct.
Okay, and that's the first time you have contact with the defendant on that evening, correct?
Yes.
All right. And what's the next thing that occurs? Is Mr. Wegson still approximately 8 feet away from you at this time?
Yes.
Is Mr. Wegson, does he have his guard down at this time?
Yes.
Okay, and what is the next thing that occurs when Mr. Wegson has his guard down and he's about 8 feet from you?
Mr. Nederveld began to state that that guy beat me up. He was pointing.
You said the defendant ran towards Mr. Wegson.
Correct.
All right, and did you see the defendant do anything physical to Mr. Wegson?
Yes.
Describe for Her Honor, please, what the defendant did to Mr. Wegson as Mr. Wegson was standing there in the street.
Mr. Nederveld approached Mr. Wegson and punched him right in the face.
Can you describe whether you raised your hand up in a fist? Did the defendant have an open hand or a closed fist when he
It was
punched?
a closed fist.
And did that closed fist blow strike Mr. Wegson?
Yes.
And could you describe the force that the defendant used to strike Mr. Wegson?
It was an extremely hard punch to his face.
Was Mr. Wegson protected in any way in that part of his face?
No.
Physically, after the defendant hits Mr. Wegson with this great force with a closed fist in his unprotected face, what happens to Mr. Wegson? What happens to him at that point?
Mr. Wegson just went straight down to his back.
Okay. Was he able to break his own fall or anything like that?
He had no movement at all, just right over, right onto his back.
Okay. And when Mr. Wegson came to the surface of the ground, what type of surface did he land on?
The pavement.
Okay. Now, at this point, you're able to see clearly that where the defendant hit Mr. Wegson and the events you've described?
Yes.
All right. Do you verbally or physically do anything in response to what the defendant did to Mr. Wegson?
Yes.
Describe for the court what occurred next.
I drew out my taser and I started ordering Mr. Nederveld to the ground.
Did the defendant comply with your request, officer?
No.
Did the defendant go towards or attempt to attack any other individuals in the area?
Yes, he started getting into a verbal confrontation with Mr. Palmer, who was one of the other males at the scene.
Okay, was Mr. Palmer one of the other three or two other people that were standing with Mr. Wegson when you first arrived?
Yes.
All right. And so when the defendant now is going after Mr. Palmer, was the defendant using any further profanity at this time?
Yes.
Okay, and was that directed at whom at this time?
To Mr. Palmer.
Okay. Now, as it relates to Mr. Wegson, is he still on the ground on the pavement at this time?
He was on the ground on his back, did not move at all.
Okay, so is he essentially unconscious as far as you can tell at this time? All right, so he's completely unconscious laying on the ground.
Correct.
And now the defendant's going after Mr. Palmer using profanity?
Yes.
And what do you do in response to that, having witnessed what you've just described to the
I
court?
deployed my taser.
Okay. And in layman's terms, did you fire your taser at any individual in particular?
Yes.
Who did you fire the taser at?
Mr. Nederveld.
And had you given Defendant Nederveld, any warnings prior to imposing the taser?
Yes, I gave him 3 warnings.
All right. And did the defendant comply with any of your 3 warnings to cease, desist, or stop, whatever it was you were asking?
He did not.
As a result of the use of the taser, in that time, had another officer arrived at the scene by the time you were done using the taser?
Yes. Officer Parsons arrived next.
Okay. And when it comes to you and having another officer, were you ultimately someone able to subdue the defendant and handcuff him?
Yes. When I tased him, he dropped to his knees, and I was telling him, get down, as far as get flat on the ground. And he was still on his hands and knees, and Officer Parsons arrived, and that's when we got him handcuffs at that point.
Okay, so even when he went down on his hands and knees, he didn't fully comply with, after the taser, with what you asked?
Correct. And he after Mr. Nederveld.
Essentially, since when he hit the ground?
Correct. He was still on his back. He was unconscious, and he was breathing.
Okay. Your Honor, I've already shown these photographs to defense counsel. May I approach the witness?
You may.
I did see them, Judge. Thank you, sir.
Officer Nichols, I'm approaching you with People's Exhibit 1, and can you describe what is shown in Exhibit 1, or who is shown in Exhibit 1?
It shows Mr. Wegson, and it shows the Farmington Hills Fire Department treating him.
Okay. Eventually, did the fire department arrive on scene to
Yes.
assist Mr. Wegson?
Yes.
Okay, and ultimately, did the fire department take him away in an ambulance to a hospital?
Yes.
Okay. But prior to Mr. Wegson leaving, at some point did he regain consciousness?
Yes.
Okay, was was Mr. Wegson injured as a result of the forceful blow that the defendant inflicted on him by punching him?
Yes.
And in the photo, Exhibit 1, we see the temple area of Mr. Wegson.
Yes.
And there's a red substance there, is that correct?
Correct.
Is that the blood?
Yes.
Okay, and can you tell the court where, on what part of Mr. Wegson's body the defendant did this forceful punch to Mr. Wegson?
It was, be right next to his eye, right there on his face.
Judge, can we describe what we're saying, right eye, left eye?
Mr. Wegson's right eye.
Okay, is that the same area where the blood is, sir?
Yes.
Okay, in photograph 1.
Correct.
Approaching with photograph 2, is this also a picture of Mr. Wegson from the other side?
Yes.
And that was taken in the same general time frame
Correct.
as Exhibit 1?
Yes.
Okay, and it also shows him at the scene, correct?
Yes.
All right, I move to admit 1 and 2, Your Honor.
No
And
objection. No objection.
Exhibits 1 and 2 shall be admitted.
Thank you. Do you want?
You may publish them too.
Thank you. The defendant was ultimately taken to the Farmington Hills Police Department based upon what he did to Mr. Wegson in this incident, as you've described.
Yes.
And were photographs taken of the defendant at the scene as well?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to approach you with exhibits 3, 4, and 5. If I may, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Who is shown in exhibit 3, sir?
That's the picture of Mr. Nederveld.
Okay, and is that picture taken after he was tased in this case?
Yes.
But before he had left the trailer park scene?
Correct.
All right, and does it fairly accurately depict the frontal view of the defendant?
Yes.
All right, exhibit 4, was this also taken at the same location near the same time?
Yes.
And is that the defendant again?
Yes.
Is that another view of his face and head area?
Yes.
And lastly, exhibit 5, is this also a picture of the defendant?
Yes, it is.
And is it a picture of the defendant's back?
Yes.
And it shows a little bit of small amount of blood on the defendant's back. Can you describe how that occurred, if you know?
Yeah, the blood would occur when the taser prong inserts into his skin.
Okay, so the picture on exhibit 5 depicts the taser effect or blood that was caused by you using the taser on him as he's going away from you?
Yes.
Okay. Move for 3, 4, and 5, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No, Judge.
Exhibits 3, 4, and 5 shall be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. Last question. Did you see Mr. Wegson do anything to the defendant while you were there to cause the defendant to want to strike him?
No.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination.
Good morning, officer. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you.
Okay. You're Officer Nichols, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, you get to the scene. Sir, you get to the scene.
Your Honor, could you question counsel from table unless he's going to approach with an exhibit?
Thank you. We need you to be by microphone.
Yeah, okay, Judge. Do you mind if I go by the mic? Well, we're in the way. Okay. Judge, can I stand right here? Is this okay? Microphone's right here?
And can we hear? All right.
Okay. Officer, it's hard from the visual point. Officer, you get called to the scene because dispatch says that several men were beating up a male. 3 men were beating up a male, or several men were beating up a male.
Objection. That's hearsay.
Your Honor, it's a physical, it's an 803 exception. First, it's an impression of what's going on at the scene, why the officer's coming.
Thank you.
It's
If this
classic.
is not an impression, overrule the objection.
Thank you.
I mean, not sustain the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Officer, you were called. Your Honor, I'd like to play the recording, the 911 recording.
That's hearsay as well, Your Honor.
Your Honor, it's a recorded recollection of what happened.
No,
Thank you.
it's not an exception to the hearsay rule.
It is an exception.
As an officer of the court, I'll state the following. One, this officer, who's the witness that the defense counsel is speaking to, is not on that recording in any way, shape, or form. So it's hearsay.
Thank you. At this point, we don't have the appropriate foundation. This may be not the correct witness to do that with.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
sustain the objection.
Sir, you approached the scene because you arrived at the scene, you said, because you, what was it again? I forgot what you said.
I was dispatched to a fight at the Flamingo Trailer Park.
Okay, so you're dispatched to a flight at the Flamingo Center, correct?
Correct.
Okay, the trailer park. Then you actually arrive at the trailer park, correct?
Yes.
Okay, when you arrive at the trailer park, you see individuals there, correct?
Yes.
The individuals you see there when you arrive are, at some point, is Mr. Palmer, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Wigson, correct?
Yes.
And Mr., is it Jeffrey? Or Jaffrey?
Jeffrey?
Okay. And then Mr. Nederveld, correct?
No.
Well, you don't see him, but he was one of the other individuals there, correct?
When I first arrived?
Yes.
No.
All right. So when you get there, you said that you saw no injuries on Mr. Wigson, correct?
Correct. I did not observe any injuries to him.
Okay. You pull up. Now, you park your car. I'm going to get you a piece of paper here. And I want to kind of get an idea of exactly where everybody was. But we'll talk about it first. You pull up. It looks like you said you pulled down a road. It's a narrow road, trailers on both sides, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You park your car, correct?
Yes.
Is there any other officers with you?
No.
All right. So you're in the driver's seat, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When you pull up, you see the three gentlemen. Do you see three gentlemen or no?
Yes.
Okay. And they are to your right or to your left?
To my left.
Okay. So you're on the passenger side, they're to your left on the, I'm sorry, you're on the driver's side, they're to your left on the driver's side of the car. Correct?
No.
Well, you pull up
Yes.
your car, correct? And you're on the driver's side, correct?
Yes.
And they're on your left, correct?
Yes, they are to the left.
Okay. So they're to the left of you, which means they're on the driver's side of your car, correct?
They were ahead of my patrol car on the left side.
Okay.
They were not standing at my patrol car.
So they're ahead of your patrol car.
Yes.
All right. So you're parked on the right or left side of the road?
Right.
All right. So you're parked on the right side of the road. There's some space of road. Are they in the road or are they off the road?
They're standing next to trailer D18 on the road.
On the road.
On the road.
Okay. So you're on the right side of the road. They're on the left side of the road in front of you, correct?
Yes.
All right. Then you get out of your vehicle, correct?
Yes.
All right. And when you get out of your vehicle, you're now they're in front of your vehicle, correct?
Yes.
All right. And you get out of your vehicle, and when you get out of the vehicle, you see what?
I see the three males at the trailer.
Okay. You get out of your vehicle, you walk forward towards them?
I believe I stayed right by my patrol car.
Okay. You stay by your patrol car, they walk up to your driver's side door.
Yes.
Okay. So
Not all the way up to my driver's side door, but they walked towards my car.
Okay. So the three individuals walk towards your car.
Correct.
Okay. Now you haven't yet saw Mr. Nederveld, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So these three individuals are walking from the left side of your vehicle, the left front of your vehicle, towards your vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You, at some point, see Mr. Nederveld, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Does Mr. Nederveld come from your right side, from the passenger side of your car, from the right side of your car, or from the left side of your car?
When I saw Mr. Nederveld, he was coming from behind my car on the driver's side.
So he was coming from behind your car on the driver's side.
Yes.
So he's coming from the left also.
Yes, the left side of the patrol car.
Okay. So the three individuals that were coming from the left, and Mr. Nederveld was coming from the left, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, though, the three individuals have walked forward, and Mr. Nederveld was not there yet, so he was not in view, correct?
Correct.
All right. So Mr. Nederveld was coming from the same direction generally as the three individuals, but he just wasn't there yet, and you didn't see him, correct?
They were approaching from opposite directions.
Well, you said they were both coming from the left, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So they're both coming from the left of your vehicle, which means they're both coming from the same direction towards the vehicle, correct?
Objection. It's been asked and answered. The witnesses said that the defendant came from behind, the other people were in front.
Objection, Your Honor. I'd ask
The
opposing
same
counsel.
side of the court.
I'd ask opposing counsel to stick to specific objections and not direct the witness.
Thank you.
I'm not directing
I
anyone.
believe the witnesses answered something different to what was presumed in your question. You may rephrase your question if you wish.
Sir, the victim and the two individuals with him came from the left side, and Mr. Nederveld came from the left side, correct?
They were both on the left side of my patrol car.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. And the victim, so the victim came from the same direction as the three individuals, correct? But you just didn't see the victim. He came from that direction a little bit later, correct?
I would say it's opposite directions because Mr. Nederveld approached from behind. Mr. Wegson was from the front.
Okay.
Both on the left side of my patrol car.
All right. So you are now standing where? You're standing by you said your driver's side door, correct?
Correct.
You're looking obviously forward in front of your car to the left because that's where the individuals are coming from, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You see Mr. Nederveld come from behind you, correct?
Correct. Through my peripheral vision, I saw someone approaching.
You saw Mr. Nederveld approaching.
Correct.
Okay. Do you know what trailer he came from, what aisle, between what trailers? When did you first see him, and where was he?
After he had, was coming up from behind my patrol car. I have no idea where he came from before that.
Okay. So you don't know what trailer he came from or what area on the ground he was laying. You have no idea.
Objection. That presumes something which is not in evidence.
Well,
Sustained.
let me ask you don't know whether he was on the ground somewhere, correct?
Correct.
You don't know if he was inside a trailer somewhere, correct?
Correct.
You don't know if he just finished getting up and he was just getting up, correct?
Objection. This is all calling for speculation.
Well, it's not calling for speculation because you're reported to the scene.
Thank you, Counsel Levin.
So, sir, after Mr. Nederveld approaches, you saw a punch, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You saw one punch, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that the victim, the way you described it, I just want to make sure I'm clear. He didn't fall to the left, he didn't fall to the right. You saw the victim fall, correct?
Correct.
And you saw him fall straight back, correct?
Correct. Right on his back.
Okay. And you didn't see him break his fall in any way, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it wasn't breaking it with an elbow or a shoulder. You just saw him fall straight back, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So when you saw, I need to know where everybody's standing, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to describe it to me first. When you see this punch, where everybody's standing. Tell me where everyone's at.
Okay. I'm standing next to my patrol car on the left side.
Okay?
Mr. Wegson was approximately 8 to 10 feet in front of me.
Mr.
He was
Wentz is
walking
8 to 10
from
feet in front of you, okay?
He had stopped. He was walking towards my car and had stopped about 8 to 10 feet in front of
Okay.
me. And then Mr. Nederveld was approximately, I would say, about 4 feet to my left.
Okay,
Sort of like next to me,
okay,
prior to the punch.
okay. All right, and where's Mr. Palmer and where is Mr. Jaffrey?
They were behind Mr. Wegson, to Mr. Wegson's right.
They were behind Mr. Wegson to Mr. Wegson's right.
Yes.
Okay, so now I have a blank piece of paper. Judge, can I approach you?
You may.
So now I have a blank piece of paper. All right, I'll give you a pen. And first I'd ask you, I'll do well, actually I'll have you do it all, okay? Here's a pen. Sir, I ask you to first draw a road that would represent the road, the narrow road you were on with the trailers on the right and the left. Okay, now that you put the road and you put the, did you put the road in there, sir?
Yes.
Okay, now that you put the road in there, can you do me a favor and can you identify your vehicle on that road?
Can we do it on here? Or
Yes, can you draw your vehicle on
This
the
is approximate, it's not to scale.
I understand. The best you can of representation of what happened that day. Did you do that? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so now that you've done that, do me a favor and put a D on the side of your vehicle that's the driver's side. Okay, and put a little triangle at the front of the vehicle so I know which way the vehicle's going. Do you know how sometimes?
Like where I pulled in?
Yeah, I want to know the direction of your vehicle. Okay, so can I see the pen for a second? So if I do this, that arrow points to the front of your vehicle, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so now your name is Mr. Nichols, right? So put an N where you were standing.
Objections to what point in time?
Okay, and put.
Thank you, Councilman.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
This is at the time that you see this punch. Okay?
Yes.
All right.
Your Honor, can Mr. Sackler stand back here? I'm sure the officer can hear him if he's here, and then the microphone will pick both of them up.
Judge, I can't see what he's drawing. I outline it so we have an accurate reflection, and I'll go back to that area 100%.
Well, it's sort of, he's already made a very detailed explanation of the events, Your Honor. I don't know if a drawing is even necessary, but if the court wishes to permit it, Mr. Sackler can ask him to put in anything he wants, even though I think it's redundant, and then the officer can present it to him.
Thank you. So long as we are making the appropriate record, I'll allow you to approach. So you may want to ask a question if you need to see it, that you may approach.
Okay. Sir, now put for Mr. Palmer, put a P where he was standing. For Mr. Wigson, put a W where he was standing. For Mr. Jaffrey, put a J where he was standing. And for Mr. Nederveld, put an N where he was standing.
At what
At
point?
what point?
Another N.
Well,
Two
first,
Ns.
okay, you're right, we do. For Mr. Nederveld, we'll use a D, but first put D1 where he was standing before he left to go throw a punch.
So you want D1 for Mr. Nederveld
Where you said he was standing to your left or something, correct?
prior to the punch?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so put D1 for where he's standing prior to the punch. And put D2 for where he was at the time he threw the punch. Am I approaching? Grab the exhibit from me.
You may.
And you're saying at the time that this happened, that the punch was occurred about 10 feet away from you, correct?
Approximately.
Okay. So were you behind the door in your car, or were you a couple feet away from your car?
I would say a couple of feet away from my car. The door was closed on my car.
Okay. So you're probably about at least 3 feet away from your car, correct?
Approximately.
Okay. And then they're about another 10 feet away from you, correct?
Approximately.
So this happened about 13 feet away from you to the front left of your car, correct?
Approximately, yes.
Okay. Sir, you got an opportunity to witness Mr. Wigson's injuries, correct?
Yes.
And you got an opportunity to speak with Mr. Wigson, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay. Judge, I have a couple extra pictures that I'd like to use. Okay.
Your Honor, the two photographs defense counsel just showed to me, I believe are purported to be of the victim at the hospital, sometime well beyond the date of the blow. Or maybe it was that night, but
Have you had these exhibits marked?
Judge, I had one marked, but because on direct, the witness said that he didn't see any injuries, and then he said that now that the person just Mr. Wigson fell flat straight.
Okay.
They're all the night of.
Your Honor, for purposes of the exam, I don't know if there is a foundation. There hasn't been a foundation established that he was at the hospital, but
He hasn't moved to admit to yet.
yeah, I know. All right, but I've seen the photos, and I'll just wait for the next thing to happen.
Okay. Sir, when you observed Mr. Wigson, did you observe bloody knuckles on his right hand?
At what point?
What's that, sir?
At what point? When I got there or after?
At any time that night?
Yes.
Okay. And did you observe bloody knuckles on more than just one of his knuckles, correct?
I believe I was right.
Objection, Your Honor. The attorney is showing the witness something and asking a question. I mean, it's not.
You may ask your question.
All right. Sir, was there blood and injury to more than one of Mr. Wigson's knuckles?
I recall that he had it appeared to be like a dried blood spot on his right knuckle.
Okay. Did you also observe an injury to the right side, to the left side of Mr. Wigson's lip?
To the left side of the, I don't recall an injury.
His left lip.
His left lip?
Yes.
I don't recall seeing an injury there.
Okay. Showing you this picture, does this refresh your memory?
Which picture?
You have to identify.
Exhibit Exhibit G. Showing you Exhibit G, does this refresh your memory as to what Mr. Wiggins' face looked like, lid looked like on the left side?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember seeing that at the incident?
The spot on his lip?
Yes, the
Yeah.
bleeding from his lip.
Yes.
Okay, like he'd been punched in the lip.
Correct.
Okay. So, prior to you arriving there, you would agree that you saw evidence of Mr. Wigson being punched in the lip, correct?
No.
Okay, blow straight. Sir, you also, can I see the opposing counsel's exhibits, Judge? The exhibits that are... Sir, in Exhibit 1 offered by the prosecution, it shows, in addition to the knuckle injury we talked about and the injury to the left lip, it also shows an injury to the right side of his head, of Mr. Wigson's head, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, mark this. I believe it's your picture, just not cut out at the bottom.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Judge, Exhibit J seems to be the exact same picture as Exhibit 1. The difference is, Judge...
Thank you, counsel. This is not your opportunity to testify. This is your chance to ask
All right.
questions.
Your Honor, Exhibit J, to move things along, I've provided to defense counsel, and I have no objection if he just wants to show it to the witness and we can move it along.
Sir, Exhibit J also shows another injury to Mr. Wigson's right elbow. Do you see that?
Correct. Yes, I see blood on his right arm.
Okay. So you noticed the injury to, did you see that night?
Prior to the punch?
Anytime that night. Did you observe these injuries that night?
Objection as to the term injury. The witness has said it's blood on his elbow. He didn't describe it as an injury beyond that, nor did he provide the source of the blood.
Sir, anytime, Your Honor, blood...
You may rephrase your question.
Okay. Sir, did you see Mr. Wigson bleeding from his elbow that night?
I saw blood on his elbow. I don't know where it was coming from.
Okay. So, everything we just discussed, the knuckles, the left lip, the right head, the injury to the right head, and the elbow, those are all things that you with your own eyes observed the night you were there, correct?
Correct, as I was with him.
As you're,
After he punched and I was right next to him.
I'm not saying before.
Counsel, let him answer the question.
Okay.
I'm not sure, we were talking over each other, I'm not sure I heard that answer.
Sir, could you repeat the answer?
Yes, initially I did not, when I arrived on scene, I could not observe any injuries to Mr. Wegson. I did observe the marks on him after he was punched, and I approached him to assess his condition.
Okay.
At that time, when I was right next to him, I did see the marks.
Okay. Did you ever that night observe the injury, which is depicted in proposed Exhibit I, to Mr. Wigson's right shoulder?
Objection. This has not been admitted, so the way he asked the question, Your Honor, is wholly improper. I has not been admitted as an exhibit.
Judge,
Thank you.
sir, did you observe any injuries? All the time. Did you observe any injuries to Mr. Wigson's right shoulder?
I did not.
Okay. Your Honor, I move to admit exhibit. Sir, let me ask you one last question. What I show you in Exhibit C Mr. Wiggson's knuckles. Is that a fair depiction of what his knuckles look like when you
Objection
saw
made.
them?
Has that been admitted yet?
I'm asking.
The only thing that's been admitted has been
Foundation
J.
I think he's asking to lay a foundation here.
Your Honor, there's already a picture of the victim's knuckle admitted in Peoples 1 through 5, I believe.
Nothing that close.
Question that way until the exhibit's admitted. You have to first show him the exhibit, lay a foundation. If he can establish a foundation for admissibility, then perhaps he could ask the question that way.
Judge, opposing counsel.
Thank you. Overruled.
Okay. Sir, does Exhibit C accurately depict what you observed Mr. Wiggson's hand to look like?
Can I see it?
Yes.
Close? Yes.
Okay. Does Exhibit G accurately depict what you observed Mr. Wiggson's left side of his face and lip to look like?
Yes.
Does Exhibit H, oh, can you hear me? Does Exhibit H accurately depict what you observed Mr. Wiggson's right side of his face to look like?
Yes.
Oh. Move to admit, Judge, Exhibit C, G, and H.
Counsel, any objection?
C, G, H, and J we have no objection to.
Thank you. Exhibits C, G, H, and I believe J read right, and also and J.
May I approach, Judge, and start to you?
You may.
Sir, that night, Mr. Wigson at some point did wake up, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that night when you got there, you observed all Mr. Wigson, Mr. Palmer, Mr. Nederveld, and Mr. Jaffrey all to be intoxicated, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that night, you had an opportunity once Mr. Wigson woke up to speak with him, correct?
Did I have an opportunity to speak with him?
Yeah, ask him what happened, correct?
No, I did not.
You didn't?
I did not.
Okay. Did Mr. Wigson that night ever tell you that the altercation
Objection.
was not
Excuse me,
physical?
there's an objection. It's anything Mr. Wigson may have said, it'd be hearsay, and he's already answered the question about that as well.
Sustained.
Thank you.
Your Honor, and my response to that is, unfortunately, Mr. Wigson's unavailable, so there's an exception to that rule. So if he did hear that night, then from Mr. Wigson's mouth, then that would not be a proper hearsay.
Well, there's still additional elements that would have to be established.
Right, he hasn't cited a rule, and I don't believe there is one that would allow for that. And his client made the person unavailable, so he shouldn't profit from it by an exception, because there is not an exception.
Sir, you're aware that Mr. Wigson is, unfortunately, has deceased, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you know that it is impossible, and sad, but impossible to bring him here today, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That night, did you hear Mr. Wigson make any statements?
Yes.
Okay. Did Mr. Wigson make a statement saying that there was no physical altercation?
Objection, you've already sustained this objection, Your Honor.
Your Honor, now I would presume to rules of evidence, or MRE 804, when a witness is unavailable and it is due to the unfortunate circumstance that he has passed. Situations where the declarant is unavailable due to privilege, refusal to testify, lack of memory, death, or illness.
The dispute isn't that the victim's unavailable. The dispute's that he doesn't cite a proper hearsay rule.
You're looking at the definition under A, but then you have to go to the hearsay exceptions under B, which have not been established.
Sir, do you agree that Mr. Wigson wanted you to, did Mr. Wigson claim that my client assaulted him?
Objection. He said, counsel,
Okay.
that's bordering on, never mind.
Thank you.
Sir, that particular night, you said that Mr. Wigson was hit from what side? You said, did you say the right side?
From Mr. Wegson's point of view, or from where I was standing?
Well, I guess nothing Mr. Wegson told you is admissible. So,
I'm confused by that, counsel. Maybe you could rephrase your question?
well, he said from Mr. Wegson's point of view.
No, he meant
From where he's standing, from where he's standing. From where I'm standing?
From the direction.
Oh, okay.
because they're facing one another, their directions, while they're, like I'm facing you, Your Honor, his right is opposite of the officer's right, because they're face to face.
All right. Sir, you saw one punch, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And where did that one punch land on Mr. Wegson's body, if you saw it?
on the right side of his face.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It'd be the right side of his face.
All right.
For the record, the witness pointed near the right eye.
So,
Thank you. In the temple area.
You never saw Mr. Wigson get hit after that point, correct?
Correct, just one punch.
Okay. Did you go with Mr. Wigson to the hospital?
No,
All right. Were you ever made aware that after that punch, Mr. Wigson ever sustained any injuries? Go straight there. Were you aware that Mr. Wigson that night got into any other altercations?
I'm not aware that he got any additional altercations.
Okay.
And
Mr. Palmer, correct?
yes,
Okay. Mr. Wegson, correct?
yes.
Okay. Did you get any recorded statements from Mr. Wegson?
As far as on my microphone,
Yes.
yes,
Okay. And did you get any recorded statements from Mr. Palmer?
yes.
And did you get recorded statements, did you meet with Ms. Colburn?
No, I did not.
Okay. No further.
The people also have no further questions. Thank you,
I don't know,
sir.
is counsel any further? Were you going to ask another question?
Judge, Is the court, to make this faster, is the court going to let me ask him what these individuals told him?
Your Honor, we all know the rules of hearsay, and it's hearsay.
It's not.
So there's no exception that's been proffered, nor none that's obvious, and with all due respect, it would be improper. That's our objection.
Your Honor, with the impression of all the witnesses of the physical scene.
You can't ask for an advisory opinion of the court, number one, on such a matter. Number two, you've already sustained it 4 consecutive times
Judge,
correctly, and